Hey good people, and welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since I did a Tubi movie review, but for this review, I'll be sharing my thoughts on the movie Him. And over the course of the review, I'll give a brief overview of the movie, followed by things that I liked about the movie, as well as some things that I thought could have been improved upon. So without any further delay, let's jump right in. The movie Him follows three main characters: Nick, his wife Nicolette, and Ellie, who is Nick's side chick. Nick and Nicolette work together, and they have a unique business arrangement of a marriage. But Nick's heart truly lies with Ellie, more than likely because Ellie is thicker than cold Rotel dip, and because her mere presence alone is enough to make Nick want to rededicate his life to Jesus. But there are two small problems. First problem, Nick neglected to tell Ellie that he was married and that she was the side chick. Second problem, Nick's wife Nicolette is a crazy stalker who has a hard-on for Ellie and Nick. The movie takes a left turn after Nicolette confronts Ellie about her affair with Nick, and she proposes a hit out on Nick, and the movie ends in a cliffhanger with a potential sequel. So if you're a Tubi vet like myself, then you should know that these revenge movies on Tubi come a dime a dozen. Someone is always cheating on their significant other, and the victim of the cheating always feels the need to want to get their get back in order to make things right. One thing that separates the movie Him from other revenge movies on Tubi is the production value of the movie. The movie looks very professional from a cinematography standpoint, from the set design to the sound editing to the scene transitions. The movie definitely passes the eye test. I also got to commend the movie for the acting performances. All the actors in the movie give a believable performance for their respective characters. I also feel that the overall storytelling for the movie separates itself from your typical revenge movie. In the movie Him, we get significant character development for the three main characters. We also take a deeper than usual dive into the main characters and why their conflict exists. To me, this is important because there are some revenge movies that are out there just for shock value, and people like me have to take off their thinking caps in order to watch the movie without any issues. For this movie, I understood the conflict between the characters and why the characters moved the way that they did. And lastly, I usually ding movies on Tubi that feature sex scenes where the characters appear to be too timid to get naked on camera. And while this movie had a handful of sex scenes that didn't show any nudity, these scenes were not the focal point of the movie like there are in other independent movies on the platform. The sex scenes with Nick and Ellie were there to show the viewers that the situationship that they shared had been consummated, which I appreciate. So in my opinion, there were a few things in the movie that could have been improved upon, and they primarily deal with elements of the storytelling. For somebody like me, one element of the storytelling that I focused on was the relationship dynamic between Nick and Nicolette. In the movie, it seemed like they were solely together as a business arrangement and not out of love or care for one another. While the two characters do have some character development, it would have been nice to get a little more backstory when it came to how they met, what made them want to get married, and what ultimately made Nick decide that cheating was the only option for him to exercise. Was Nick a victim of emotional abuse and neglect within his marriage? Or was Nicolette the perfect wife and Nick was just being greedy, inconsiderate, and selfish? In this movie, it's kind of hard to root against Nick even though he cheated on his wife. And I'm all for people cheating on their spouse if the cheating is justified, but I wanted to see a little bit more before I'd fully join Team Nick. Secondly, very early on, we see that the character Nicolette is not only crazy, but she appears to be one step ahead of Nick and Ellie when learning about their affair, as well as learning about Ellie's deep dark secrets. Yet, as the movie goes on, Nicolette becomes a lot more careless with her plot for revenge, and her character appears to be completely dumbed down towards the end of the movie. For example, in the beginning of the movie, Nicolette is moving around undetected by Nick and Ellie like a thief in the night while she spies on both of them. Nicolette has the means and resources to conduct surveillance and background checks on the two other characters without their knowledge. We then learn that Nicolette's company is facing bankruptcy, and she essentially wants to take Nick out so that she can cash in on his insurance policy, and she concocts a plan to carry out this task. In my opinion, if Nicolette really hated Nick to the point where she wanted him gone, why not hire a professional hitman to take Nick out while he was at Ellie's home? Why not have the hitman drug Ellie, stage the murder to make it look like Ellie did it, and tip the police off so that they could arrest Ellie? This plan makes the most sense, especially if it can be proven that Ellie knew that Nick was using her as a side chick and she was tired of being used. Instead, Nicolette holds Ellie to gunpoint and uses a combination of blackmail and bribery to coerce Ellie to kill Nick herself and make it look like an accident. Then the plan changes, and Nicolette tasks Ellie with setting up Nick so that a professional hitman could get the job done, and Nicolette pays Ellie $500,000 up front before the job is even completed. As smart as Nicolette was in the beginning of the movie, this series of moves on Nicolette's part had amateur hour written all over them. Now sure, Ellie was caught slipping during the first meeting with Nicolette, but in the second meeting, Ellie could have worn a wire, recorded everything that Nicolette said, tipped off the police and Nick, and Ellie could have disappeared with her bestie and the money before Nicolette knew what hit her. But the fact that Ellie contemplated going through with the plan was insane when you consider that Nicolette held all of the leverage in the situation. I mean, hypothetically speaking, who's to say that Nicolette wouldn't try to blackmail Ellie at every chance she got just because she could? I know that I'm going down the rabbit hole on this one, but when it comes to a movie storytelling, I always ask myself if there's a better way of telling the story. Sometimes the answer is yes, sometimes the answer is no. But when it comes to the movie Him, if we're sticking with the same storytelling structure, then I think that Ellie getting the upper hand and turning the murdered for hire plot against Nicolette is a good move. But a unique plot twist would have been seeing the tables turn on Nicolette, as us as a viewing audience learned that Nicolette had contacted the hitman in secret and bribed him to help fake Nick's death. The police are then notified about the situation, they help fake Nick's death, and while Nicolette is at the job with her family, sharing fake sorrow about Nick's death, the police show up with Nick to expose Nicolette and arrest her. Now when it comes to the ending for the movie, I do like the potential for a sequel, but I also felt wondering what the future held for Nick and Ellie. Did Ellie completely cut things off with Nick? Were they just taking a break as she was in the process of moving to her new spot? Or were they still together, but Ellie might have her eyes set on another guy who might help her get revenge on Nick for lying to her? So much to ponder. But if I had to rate the movie Him on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it a solid 7. While the movie has some minor issues with the storytelling, the movie does pass the eye test, and it also provides a fresh story that's outside of your typical ratchet thrillers that are in abundance on Tubi. So please go check it out. And this marks the end of the review. Feel free to leave all comments below in the comment section, and I'll be sure to reply to everybody. Until next time, stay tuned and stay safe. Peace.